What's up, everyone? We are back for another episode of A Bigger Bite. Once again, I'm your host, Matt Thomas. I am back with Bitesize, A Bigger Bite regulars, Amarú Moses, Harrison, and Nick Van, CEO. So we are, I wanted to throw them off, but we are here to talk about Punisher One Last Kill. And yeah, I'm going to start off, before we get into it, how's everyone doing today? Rue, how you doing, sir?
I've been out in the sun for 2 days straight, so my body is
not a lick of color got added to him.
Not really, no. But hey, it might a little bit later.
Harrison, how you doing?
I'm tired. I was at the Cheer Wine Festival basically this entire afternoon. Rushed back home, made dinner, and Ma Nucci, she sicked somebody on me, so I got a little surgery scar here. Luckily, I survived, but I'm doing all right.
Nick Van, CEO, how are you doing, sir?
Don't call me that. That's having a space in your last name is the worst thing because sometimes different government publications and banks just abbreviate it to Nick Van, and that's not my name, and it causes me so many issues with proving who I am. I'm okay, although it looks like I'm on the sun right now, so I don't love that, but here I am.
All right, so there's no easy way to get into this. This is a very interesting one-off that Disney Plus decided to do for Punisher in the MCU. And it's what makes this one more interesting is Bernthal is involved in the creative process, was a producer, was a writer, if I remember correctly, so he had a lot of say over what happened with the character. And I'll start this off with an interesting interaction I had with my therapist because he's a big Marvel fan, and we'll normally start or end a session talking about like what's going on. So he told me, he's like, considering how much I didn't like Wonder Man for the lack of action, you think I'd love this, but I did not because as a therapist, I was over here like, there's so much misrepresented here. It pisses me. Which I found interesting because I overall enjoyed it, but I can understand the sentiment he is coming from. It is dark, it is violent, it is gritty, but that's who Frank Castle is. So that's why that didn't bug me. But there were some choices that they made representing the mental health struggles of it all that are fairly questionable, if you want to be honest about it. So starting off with Nick, what are your thoughts, sir?
Overall disappointed. I have said this before. I think the Punisher series on Netflix stands along with the Daredevil as two excellent series. I love the way that they've portrayed PTSD and post-military and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was done in a really authentic way. I like the characters in that show. And here, I think they told a good Punisher story. I don't believe they told a good Frank Castle story. And my main issue with this is it's called One Last Kill, but it feels like a prologue to something else. It feels like almost like when they release a DVD and they're like, oh, we didn't film the intro, the beginning of the story. We released like a comic book with it or something, a little small short or something like that. That's what this feels like. And the action's cool, but I don't think it's anything that I feel like I need to revisit. And this is probably the closest I felt to the worries that people had about how Disney would handle Daredevil. I don't love the way they've handled Punisher so far.
Rue, your thoughts?
I don't agree with that last sentiment about I don't like how they handled it. There's like two big things that took away from this while watching. Though I will say, interesting is the word, because there's a lot of really, really good here, and there's a lot of really like, okay, here. The two biggest things are, one, because I am not a therapist, and I don't know how PTSD is supposed to be handled at all. I watched that, and I was like, wow, it took Disney to take probably the realest, rawest, grittiest, darkest, most harrowing view into what Frank Castle probably would be in real life. Disney did this. shit. And I was like, I feel like I'm watching Uncut Gems or just I feel bad, but also yes, this is the sentiment. Because again, I would love to actually hear a real breakdown of what it should and shouldn't be, but the sentiment and the grittiness and the like, yo, we got people misrepresenting what the Punisher actually is. This is a real true view of what the Punisher actually is, and then also of all the shit going around in the neighborhood. It was dark as hell. But the second thing that I was like weirdly looking at was like the entire thing is also shot as brightly as Nick's room right now. It's also the brightest thing I've ever seen Punisher do. So the juxtaposition of how clear and how clean and crisp and glossy it looked with all of the just harrowing nature of what was going on, it just encapsulated again how interesting I thought this was. Like I wasn't like super high on it, but I did enjoy it because I was like, wow, they're just diving into stuff that with Punisher that I didn't think anybody would ever do because they never would go that dark into it. And it being on Disney Plus is what was like, shit, I'm now interested in moving forward. What's going on, even with some of the like story. And I didn't mind it not feeling complete. I didn't mind that. It was some of the story that I was like, this is kind of corny and cheesy. You mentioned there when Manucci came in, I was like, let's get to it. And then I like the action. So this was an interesting little capsule piece that I thought did really well diving into what the Punisher actually and who Frank Castro actually is. Again, going to say not a therapist though. So that's, I'd like to hear more about that in other videos around the interwebs.
Harrison, your thoughts?
I mostly enjoyed it. I do think it was retreading some ground that was already covered in the Punisher season 2, with basically him deciding to not only be out for revenge, but also help people who need it. And I was like, we've kind of already been through this, but maybe he had a backslide after Daredevil and, went back into just focusing on revenge. But I really like the action. I actually liked how bright it was. In terms of the action, I don't think I liked how crazy the entire neighborhood was. It was like, come on, there's no like,
weird.
if it's this crazy, there are no other heroes showing up. This is New York. There's no way it would be this bad. I do think it, like what you said, it felt like a prologue to something. Like when I was done, I was like, this feels like the pilot episode for a new Punisher series. And like they're just trying to test to see how people enjoyed it before they move forward. Like once he does Spider-Man, we're going to come out in the next phase more like, hey, by the way, got more Daredevil coming and there's a new Punisher series. And I really did enjoy, a lot of kids don't know, but back when there used to be cable TV, when an adult show would start, it would be like, this is rated TV MA and all the stuff. When that came on, I was like, I like that. I like seeing that. It made me feel like a kid again.
What's funny is when I was watching it, I told my wife, I remember the first time I saw that, and I was like, oh my God, they're doing, yeah, it's funny that you brought that up.
Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing that. And yeah, Manucci as a character, I feel like they could have done better with that. But again, like I said, this feels like a prologue to a new series that they're probably working for. So I'd be happy to see if it got that chance, what it'd be like. But in terms of like a special presentation, it's probably like my least favorite of the 3 so far, but not by a lot, just by a little bit.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. When you were talking, it brought up a funny thought for me with how crazy the neighborhood was. The whole thing felt like a fever dream. And at one point, I'm like, okay, is this just Frank making shit up in his head because he's going through so much shit? That's how much it felt like, the brightness and all of that all together. Mm-hmm. It just felt like maybe this isn't real. And he's just thinking this. That's kind of how I felt throughout it sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard that theory a lot. Some people have said that some of it may have been real, but some of it may have not. And that kind of adds to the whole mental breakdown aspect of what he was going through. So.
Yeah, I do want to say there's a lot of retconning here compared to the Daredevil. Because this is the first we've heard of the Nucci family, and I can say this is doing some quick research and having watched the show for the Punisher series for the first time last year, because it was his own team that killed his family last time, or earlier in the series. So the Nucci ties, Have never been mentioned in any live action Marvel television series or movie. So it's weird to have this retcon, but I guess some people have argued this is a reintroduction to Frank, and that you could argue that he is the one character that isn't totally carrying on from his TV series. Which I'm like, well, that's horse shit, because if he's not carrying on from his TV appearances, then he shouldn't be carrying on from Daredevil. Like, I get that he was the primary function of season 2 of Daredevil, but if you're gonna retcon what you've seen or what we know of this character, at least give a slightly better explanation, because people who are familiar, at least in the terms of the MCU, people who are familiar with that series are going to be like, hey, something's off here, because this was not how we did it before. And I think that's something that does need to be talked about. Again, it didn't bug me. I understand it, but there is questions to be held about that. So based on, if you didn't already know that, how do you feel about hearing that? We'll start off with Amarú this time.
I'm a weirdo when it comes to this, especially in the whole mismatch, just put together shit of Netflix and Fox and MCU and all of that. Anything that wasn't in the MCU strictly beforehand, I'm just washing my hands off and letting them tell me what is in it and what's not. Like, it makes my brain go through too many hoops and tricks. And that was it. I don't care. Let me know what you're doing. And like Daredevil is pretty much 80 to 90% saying the first 3 were kind of canon. Punisher's in and Punisher's out. I'm just going to take what they give me and I'm going to move forward with it, because it's a lot of, we should take from here and we should not take from there. So clean slate-ish. They knew Frank, Lucci families are in, retcon, not retcon, whatever. I'm moving forward from here. That's really honestly how I approach it, because it's
Harrison,
so damn messy. Oh. It's messy.
Harrison, your thoughts?
Yeah, I wasn't too worried about it, because it wasn't like with Frank, with the death of his family, it wasn't only his old team that did it. They organized connections through some of the mafia families to like have that shootout or whatever. So you could take it as the Nucci's were somehow involved in that, even if they weren't taking part in the shootout, they were somehow connected. So this is more of a, not like a retcon, but more like an omission, like something like, well, how can we squeeze in a new piece of lore here? Oh, well, say the Nucci's were somehow involved. Just because they didn't show up does not mean they weren't involved. Just like with Kingpin working with the what's that family in Hawkeye? The
I just know
the tracksuit mafia or whatever.
Tracksuit
like
mafia, yes.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about Kate Bishop's mother for a minute. That's what I was like.
Yeah. Her, like even him working with the tracksuit mafia, him working with Kate Bishop's mom. These things were not mentioned in Daredevil before, but it's like, just because we didn't mention them before, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. That's when you add in these flashbacks and just kind of squeeze them into pockets, because the time we don't see what these characters do on an everyday basis. You can squeeze in, so they talk to so and so then, and it doesn't really mess with the timeline that much. Some people like, well, I don't remember that. If you do a little research, you can figure it out. If you don't want to do the research, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, it didn't bother me that much.
Nick,
it reminded me a lot of kind of what they did with Dexter, which is they have Dexter's mom get killed, and then basically throughout the series, different people arise that had something to do with her death, and they just kind of related them in that way. So that's how I kind of took the Nucci family being included. Yeah, they were just one of the mafia connections for the thing, for his family's demise. But I think the thing that sticks out to me about this, like you're talking about comparing it to the Netflix show, I actually like what they were doing with Frank in Daredevil Born Again Season 1. I already got who I thought Disney's version of Punisher was going to be, and he was different, but like I was on board with that. And this feels like it's them trying to do the Netflix version, but their version of it, only to do what I can only describe as neuter him to put him in a Spider-Man movie. And now he is like this good guy coming to the defense of kids and stuff, is going to be like his big superhero kind of vibe. And I think there was a lot better of a way to do that. And that's why this is called One Last Kill, is I don't think this is the start of a new Punisher series like this. I think this is the start of a new Punisher that we're going to get in Brand New Day.
I think it's the same Punisher though. Like as being the guy who's more familiar with comics and stuff here. Like although I can only speak when it comes to these two and myself. I can't speak for Harrison because I don't know Harrison's dive into lore. No, Punisher remains the Punisher even when he goes softer. It's more so he looks out for the everyday man than anything else when he goes softer. It's not just about his own personal vendetta, which is what a lot of his journey is about early on. And that's why you'll see him in Spider-Man. It's not going to be neutered because we saw how they're neutering him. It's web on his mouth to keep him from cursing. Otherwise, you might not see the headshots. You're still going to get the killing most likely.
Yeah, I don't think it's that he's not being neutered. Spider-Man is neutering him. Spider-Man is a lot stronger than the Punisher. He is going to be the same thing he does with Daredevil. Punisher wants to kill people. Spider-Man's like, we shouldn't kill people. They're going to have their back and forth. He's probably going to get a few kills off that Spider-Man just doesn't get to stop. And then they're going to still be friends at the end of the day, even though they disagree with how to take care of criminals. So when he's in Spider-Man will try and save as many people as possible. When he goes back into Daredevil or another adult show, he's blowing people's heads off again. That's basically how it goes.
And I was really interested in how that back and forth, how they'll switch between those two. In terms of I was like, yeah, Punisher's going to be Punisher, but I do want to know how Destin and how the writers for Brand New Day are going to not feel like it's a complete tonal shift. Which honestly, with the entire Spider-Man team, even though it's a new director, I trust them. They haven't failed yet. And
it's an entirely new team.
Still, I'm still saying that there's probably it's still the MCU, it's still Feige, it's still they wouldn't get. Hopefully, with the success of that trilogy, they won't get a team that will completely demolish what was made before because it's one of their best. So seeing how they put him in there is going to be really, really interesting. It was for me at the end of this though. I think the one thing with it being so short and being feeling like it's not a complete story, the shift at the end was a little jarring for me, where he's going through all of this stuff and then all of a sudden, all right, cool, I'm going to be the Punisher guy now, clean shaven and all of that. I was like, oh, well, yeah, we got to get back to it. That was the one downfall for me in terms of how short it was and how minimal it was, because I would have loved a little bit of a deeper dive. So I'm with you. If they continue with that, I saw something recently that said Jon Bernthal, he was like, yeah, I would love to continue this story. I just need to be the one kind of.
Yeah, he said he wants to be the one doing the storytelling, which excites me and worries me at the same time, because at that point, storytelling can get stale. And Monty covered this when we did our Daredevil episode, which you can go watch now on the YouTube channel. Look at that plug. But the issue with a lot of the formerly Netflix versions of characters is the actors don't want to get comic booky. We see that with Daredevil a lot. We're seeing it with Punisher currently. They want the control of the narrative and the story and keeping it dark and gritty. And sometimes comic fans they want to have a little bit of fun and have it be a comic. So
that might end up going well with going to Spidey. Because Spidey, you're gonna have the fun comic-y stuff. So I'm interested in where it's going. But yeah, that tonal shift at the end of me was the one part outside of Manucci that I was like, that was real quick, but I see they're ending it, so cool. I'm interested where it's going forward.
Yeah, and I will say I didn't cover this, but I didn't respond to this, I should say. But it feeling like a pilot. Yeah, to leave that Manucci string just hanging there, untouched, unfinished. I'm like, unless you're doing another one-off we don't know about, this I don't need another untied thread in the MCU or uncut thread.
I think that's kind of my issue with this series and why I talk about him being neutered is I think his motivation changed at the end of the series. I don't think he's going back for Manucci, and it's going to be if she's going to keep coming after him, but I don't think he's going to have this big revenge plot for the hit she put out on him because he has changed kind of his perception and his way. And that's why I think the only purpose of this actual show was to do a transition of the Frank Castle character where you might get a series and it might go a little grittier. I don't think it's going to be the same level of violence that you've seen in this in the Netflix show in Punisher or even in Daredevil Born Again of Punisher in the Spider-Man movie. But I think that this is kind of a transition to everything that happened with my family. I'm at my peace with it. This woman, yes. I took everything from her. And it's really, if Manucci is going to be involved, I know that in Brand New Day, there's like talk of the Hand being involved and things like that. But I don't really think you need to continue that story unless she goes on the warpath with him. And I don't think she feels like that strong of a character. It feels like a villain of the week kind of thing. And I think we're done with that story.
Yeah, I think like she's a fragile older woman. Like he realizes in the moment, he's like, I really don't need to kill her. Like if like an innocent person had died while that rampage was happening, maybe, but he luckily saved everybody and they were really only going after him. So he can let her go. If they do move forward with a new Punisher series, I can see her basically like hiring comic booky villains to take him out, like the Russian and other Punisher villains. Like she's just going to be like a background. She's not imposing to him at all. So I can see her being around, but not really. Like if she never shows up again, I don't think I'll care. But I'm fine that he let her go.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a loose thread. It feels like, again, unless she comes back at him,
it feels incomplete. Like,
well,
he doesn't have to kill her, but even just stating, like, not everything needs to be stated, but when you leave something like that where he's having to make this choice of letting her go or going to save the family. I get it. It's a superhero trope for them to come back and be like, have a mini monologue with someone, but tropes exist for a reason. And sometimes when it's something like this where we know it's a one-off, like we've been told explicitly, this is a one-off. So because of that, it's like there's a sense of finality that's not there and should be.
See, that's the one thing I'm going to push back on a little bit, because he got her family. Like, he did the deed with them. She is just a woman who was related to them. There's no sign that she had anything to do with the murder of his family. We don't know one way or another. But the only reason that Frank ever went after her is because she went after him. Yeah. And that's why that moment at the end of the series, I don't think he has that bloodthirst for revenge anymore. So it's only if she comes back after him. And I don't think after seeing the carnage that he left when she did try to go for him, I think it actually makes sense for her to cut her losses at this point, because more people are going to die.
And you know what? I'm thinking with Harrison, I don't care. I don't care. Like, if she doesn't come back, it's not going to like bother me too much. The one thing that you mentioned though, that I'm like, that would bother me. There's no way he is at peace with his family at this point. He went through too much in this right now with everything. He damn near killed himself. And all of a sudden he's at peace. That, if they drop that in anything going forward that's not Spidey, that's him centric, that would be a mistake to me. He's got to still be dealing with that. He's as heavy as that was on his mind. That would make this retroactively for me worse than I feel like it is now, because I accept this is a incomplete one-off. I accept that this is a, hey, let me show you where Frank is. Let's get some really cool action in here. Let's bring somebody to kick off that action. We're reintroduced. Let's move forward. And if they continue from there, because they're definitely continuing with how he's dealing mentally and whatever person is coming after him next, I don't need Revenge Punisher. I just need Punisher. And I'm actually more interested in how he's dealing with his mental health issues, with whatever bad guy of the week or the season or the series or they bring in. I'm interested in that aspect because I want to see him kill the shit out of people, but I also want to see the how he's dealing with it mentally.
Yeah, I think it's okay for him to be at peace because he's only at peace right now. Like even like I said, the Netflix series, he had reached the moment of my family's gone. I'm just gonna go help. He always reaches a moment at peace, and then he spirals back down. Then he comes out
I'm
kind
good
of
with
like an
that.
alcoholic or a drug addict. Yeah, he goes down, comes back up, goes down, comes back up, and I think that'll probably be how they move forward. Like he gets better, but then he gets worse. Karen Page will show up. Hey, let me help you get better. And then at some point he gets worse. And that's just what the Punisher is. He's like Batman. I know that's DC. He's never really going to ever get over it. And that is what's going to drive him to keep being the vigilante that he is. Although now, Go ahead. I'll say, although now he's going to be a little more clean about it. And at the same time, he's never going to get in trouble because I don't know if they'll bring it back up from the show, but the CIA has his back. And I'm surprised they didn't bring that up in this one. Like they offered him a job to take out people for him, and he just said no. So
Karen Page is something we got to bring up. And before we get into her and the character's involvement in the show, it's been hinted at recently by the heads at Marvel, the various showrunners, that they want to explore a Frank, Matt, and Karen love triangle, and they feel like that is unresolved. And I think, again, tying back to Born Again Season 2, we see hints of that, of Karen being like, well, Frank would do it this way. And it's like, I'm not fucking Frank. And seeing how she still weighs on Frank's mind in this episode, what are your guys' thoughts on her involvement in this and the potential of that love triangle going forward?
It's nothing against the love triangle. To me, watching this, the more interesting story is him coming to terms with Curtis. Like, that is a relationship that I was hoping to see in this show because I really enjoyed Curtis as a character in the Punisher series. And I think that is the one place his family is gone. Like you said, there will be ebbs and flows with how he comes to deal with that. But Curtis is very clearly, and they made a point of showing it here, like unfinished business on the mind of Frank. And I want to see maybe him find Curtis. Like, I don't know what happens there, but I want to see a continuation of that story if you're going to do a series.
All of this together is what made me ultimately like this presentation. Because the action was great, but the shit with Curtis, Curtis is still here. He's still around. That actor is great. Sorry, I don't know your name. But when Karen showed up, again, added to the fever dream aspect of it, love triangles could be really hit or miss. I love this stuff because the dichotomy between Matt and Frank is one of the most interesting dichotomies of how they got to work together and then work against each other and battle each other. And Karen being in the middle of that, with her also being a very interesting character in general, I think that is something that feels natural. It doesn't feel forced. And I think the dynamics of all three of them individually allow that kind of triangle to not like pin it down to like, oh, who likes who. No, these are three flawed individuals who together uplifts the spotlight of their character depth in their flaws together, because Karen is some of Matt, Karen is some of Frank, but Karen also has her own shit that she deals with. And all three of them just bring a spotlight to each other that lifts all three of them at the same time. So I really, really like exploring that alongside on Frank-centric stuff, Curtis as well. Again, it's the relationship and mental and relationship stuff that on top of the action makes me really enjoy Frank Castle and what all aspects of Jon Bernthal's Frank Castle has been.
I think I agree. I would like to see that triangle explore more. I do think Karen's character should be phased out of Daredevil and moved into a Punisher series because clearly she aligns with him more and better. And the reason I said is because Karen and Matt, they like each other. I don't see that relationship being what
No,
is
I'm gonna push
ultimately
back on that.
together. Because if you watch the show and if you read the comics, Matt's true love is Electra Nachios. That is his
She
true
dead.
love. That is who she's not dead. Nobody's
She's
dead.
dead.
She's
Hmm.
she's
She
already been
dead.
liking posts. They're gonna bring her back,
The
and that
hand
is
is
gonna be
here.
your
No,
exactly.
they-
The hand is
They
back.
coming.
When Electra shows back up in his life, how is he's like, but I'm with Karen now. I've been it's gonna be some type of shift, and then him and Karen will be like, we were always better as friends, and then that's where you're gonna see the shift with her and the
I'm
Punisher.
gonna disagree with that.
And then well, let me finish. And then you're gonna have the fact that you have Frank, who is clearly in love with Karen Page, but how does he reconcile that? He loves his wife, but his wife is dead. Can he move on from her? How does that relationship work? I think that's where they're going. Again, I'm pretty sure Electra's coming back, and Karen's going to be more of a Punisher character moving forward.
Yeah, no. Here's where I'm gonna give you major pushback. Daredevil season 2 spends a good amount of time focusing on the fact how Elektra and Matt are horrible for one another. That is a large portion of the season because he gets called out on his bullshit for how he pushes everything off for her. You see the bad chemistry, how Matt shifts as a person, and it's a terrible fucking human being when he's with her. Karen Page is a made-up character. They can do whatever the fuck they want. She is not an established Marvel character. So
She was in the comics.
as far as I think she was added later on. I was double checking. As far as I
No,
know,
she was in the early comics. She died. She's like the only character they never brought back to life, which is why they felt free reign to use her as much in the show. But yeah, I don't even think they still haven't brought her back in the comics. I get what you're saying. They are bad for each other, but this is almost like a Bruce Wayne Talia situation.
I don't think in the universe that has been set up it is, because at the end of the day, like I brought up, they don't like doing the comic booky shit. They have established that. And I also think that what makes Karen right for Matt is the fact that she's such a blend, because she calls him out on she calls both of them out on their bullshit, because there have been times where she's talking to Frank and she mentions, well, Matt would do this shit. So when you factor that in, Brew talks about her being blend. She is a perfect blend for that reason, because she holds both of them equally accountable for whenever they're about to do shit that would be fucking things up otherwise.
I don't know how I feel about that relationship. I get where Harrison's coming from. Like, there's something about, like, going into not even the Netflix shows, but just the shows that were involved in this Netflix group of shows. They're all about different versions of grief. Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones. Also, don't forget, in the Disney world, we all know Matt's true love is She-Hulk.
But I'm about to say, I don't like, oh, wait.
And before you move on from that, let's not forget, Matt is a hoe. He just is.
He is a hoe.
He's a Disney hoe, too. They've established he's a Disney hoe. I think there is something about that relationship with him and Karen. I don't know if it's necessarily that Karen is going to go to the Punisher, but it does feel like a short-term lifespan on that relationship. I think a lot of Matt and Karen is that union is based in large part bonded with Foggy involved, and not having Foggy around. I think
Daredevil Born Again season 2 just contradicts everything you're about to say. So I'm
no, because I think their current self, they don't look like lovers. They don't feel like lovers. They feel like people working together. And I think that there is like a missing part of that relationship, that sometimes it's like a brother-sister vibe, the way they go back and forth and stuff. But it does feel like there's a short lifespan for that relationship. And the only reason I think they might not do that is I think that could be very detrimental to Matt's character.
I love how we've just blended all of these together from the Punisher one shot of everything. But I'm a little bit on Nick's side. Well, I think this is all interesting, and that's why I think this love triangle shit is good. Her going into the Punisher and the short-term memory of this. I just remember at the beginning of this season of Born Again, when you see Matt and Karen kiss, I was like, wait, what? When did that all happen? And that actually gives me more like thought to be like, because we didn't see the build up to this and it just kind of happened.
We didn't see the build up to it in the Disney version. We saw it in the Netflix version.
No, I'm talking about the Disney version. Like at the end of season 1, they were
no. That's I was adding clarifying statements.
Yeah,
that's all.
And at the end of season 1, at the beginning of season 1, all of a sudden they just are. That gives foundation for this to feel short term, because as quickly as and I feel like I don't feel the cracks, but I feel they could easily dissolve this into something, and the little cracks that episode where she's talking about Frank. So I could see her moving into a Punisher series and it working. And it definitely working.
And we've seen what Matt and Karen, quote unquote, breaking up looks like. It's not like they're going to become vicious enemies. Like, it's just going to be like, this isn't working. Like, we need to take our time away and stuff like that. And I think that's what. Well, no, because we've seen them like before being in a relationship.
They never started a relationship in the Netflix series.
But they've had their pull aparts. They had their series. They just weren't dating at the time.
They've had their flirtations. And a lot of that was based on the fact that Matt still hadn't come out to the terms that he was Daredevil to a lot of people, including Karen. So you need to factor that into. Yeah, they had the fallouts because she didn't know he was Daredevil yet. That is a massive part into why those fallouts happened and why things flamed out.
To me, like, I don't think there's a difference, honestly, the hugest of difference between friend Matt and Karen and boyfriend and girlfriend Matt and Karen. So I feel like season 1 of Born Again, we've seen it. That's the fallout. That exact same kind of fallout of them just separating is going to happen when they break up as well. I don't see that big of a difference between that they're too close with one another to be enemies, and they're also too close with one another to really truly, like, unless they build it up nicely, to really truly become lovers and soulmates in that kind of relationship. It's all the same.
And if your plan is to I don't want to say neuter again, but if your plan is to kind of soften Frank going forward, I think his character needs Karen a lot more than Matt's does. Like Rue said, Matt's a hoe. He'll find someone else. It's what he does. Yeah. But I think Karen could have a really good effect on Frank going forward in this up that Harrison was talking about, where he's not dealing with his grief in the same way that he was before. I think she could really help him grow, that maybe we don't get that downslide again.
And if they do another Punisher series, that is what their goal is. They need to round out that cast. You got Deborah Ann Wall. You can bring her in as Karen. The guy who plays Curtis, they're definitely going to bring him back. I really feel like they're going to try and find a way to get Evan Moss-Baccarat back as Micro, since that's where he started. A lot of people forget that he was in the Punisher season 1 before he became the Thing.
Yes, he was.
And you would need that.
To be fair, all that happened before Disney said, fuck it, we give up. We just got to fold everything that was previous into this shit.
And I think that's another reason why I think Karen Page is going to end up with him, just to kind of make that show a little more full. Because if you just have the Punisher running around,
she can end up in the show. Fine special presentation. End up with him. You can still explore a love triangle without her ending up with him.
Curtis's name is Jason Armour. We can't.
I just looked that up. I wanted to give him his flowers too. Yeah.
But no, I've been holding on to that for ever since you I don't know the actor's name. I was like, it's Jason Armour, but I'm not going to because he's in midpoint. But no, it's one of those things where Karen works and I'm not saying she doesn't work in a Punisher series. I'm just saying I don't think that relationship ever works because of who Frank is at his core. One, he is always stays faithful to his wife even after death. Like that's just who he is. Like there may be a few dalliances of one night stands and this, but at the end of the day, he's still always faithful to his wife.
Well, I'll push back a little bit. I'll go ahead and finish.
I'm saying in terms of full on romance. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I think they may be aiming towards that. And the only reason, when he had that hallucination of Karen Page, she was wearing his wife's clothes. I thought that was interesting.
Oh.
So.
But
so interesting.
Yeah.
But and two, I feel like so going back to the Punisher original television series, I feel like we got as outside in terms of as close as they're ever going to get to a relationship. I feel like we got that from that. Again, I watched it for the first time last year. I did a whole binging series leading up to the Daredevil Born Again coming out, where I reviewed each Netflix season of Daredevil and Punisher. And it's just one of those things where I don't know outside of keeping her at a what actually works with Karen and Frank. Like Matt's a hoe. I will always agree to Matt being a hoe, but there's something about how he's been done in this universe where yes, the man is a hoe. However, she's still been his North Star a lot of the time. So
again, I think the one relationship with Matt that you can't break is him and Wilson. It's very much like Batman and the Joker in that sense. Like, I feel like Wilson is the life partner that he needs. And Karen, I think you can replace. Or, I mean, hey, it's 2026. If you really want, they can be in a throuple.
we're not gonna go there. No. No.
Oh man.
Okay. With that, let's end there because just nothing to say after that. Harrison, where can the good people find you?
Good people can find me on all the social medias except for TikTok at FlixFrog. And yeah, you see me talk about movies, comics, TV, all that good stuff.
You can find Rue, CEO Thriple, down there over on the Bigger Bite website, or excuse me, a Bitesize Breakdown website, and here on a Bigger Bite whenever we host an episode. Keep an eye out. There may be an Obsession Bigger Bite that's out or excuse me, that's coming out in the coming days. We're trying to figure out if we're going to do that or not. And you can find me on my personal YouTube channel, Walker Entertainment. As I plugged already, check out that Daredevil Born Again Season 2 with DeMonte versus own Pat. So check that out. And yeah, with that, folks, signing off. I'm Matt. That is Rue. That is Harrison. And that is CEO. And we will see you next time. Peace.